Hello, everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. I woke up, tired. After a night of seeing a shadow sitting right next to my bed. I no longer knew where the boundary between dreams and reality was. My apartment was now like an invisible trap, where every dark corner could hide him. The light of day seemed to be no longer enough to dispel the fear creeping into my heart. Decided to wash my face to wake up. When I entered the bathroom, I turned on the bright light and looked in the mirror. At first, there was only my pale face, my eyes dark from lack of sleep. But then, for a moment, I saw a shadow standing right behind me. I turned around quickly. The bathroom was completely empty. No one was there. My heart was pounding. I turned back to look in the mirror again. Nothing. I pressed my hand to my face, telling myself that I was hallucinating due to lack of sleep. I tried to continue washing my face, letting the cold water splash on my face. But as soon as I raised my head, I saw him. In the mirror, behind me, was a tall, thin man in a dark coat, his face blurry, his eyes glowing red. He stood motionless, looking at me. I turned around, it was empty, but in the mirror, he was still there. I felt like my body was frozen, unable to move. His lips moved slightly in the mirror, but no sound came out. I held my breath, my eyes fixed on that image. Then a whisper rang out in my head. "I am always behind you," I screamed, hitting the mirror hard. The mirror shook, cracking a long line. His image disappeared. I collapsed to the floor, panting, sweating as if I had run dozens of kilometers. For a moment, I thought about leaving the apartment immediately, but part of me knew that wherever I went, he would follow. In the following days, his appearances became more and more frequent. Not just in the mirror, but in the reflection on the TV screen when it was off, on the glass door frame when I walked down the hallway. Every time I saw him, he was standing in the same place, right behind me, motionless, but his eyes were fixed, as if he were holding my soul captive. I began to lose control. I didn't dare look at any reflective surface anymore. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel, avoided looking in the elevator mirror, turned off all the screens when I wasn't using them. But it seemed that the more I avoided him, the more he wanted to appear. In my sleep, I dreamed that I was standing in front of dozens of broken mirrors, and in each of them he was smiling at me. One evening, while I was sitting in the living room, the TV screen suddenly turned on without me touching the remote. The black screen reflected the room. I saw myself huddled, but right behind me, and the reflection was his figure. I turned around, still no one. But on the TV, he came closer, his hand reaching out to touch me. I panicked and threw the remote at the screen, causing it to shatter and go dark. I knew I couldn't go on like this. I went to a priest in a nearby church and told him about the shadow that was always following me. He listened, advised me to pray and keep my faith. But even as I sat in the church, I could clearly feel someone's eyes watching me from behind the stained glass windows. My faith was eroded every day. My body gradually collapsed. I lost weight rapidly. My face became haggard. My colleagues began to notice something was different. Michael, a friend who had listened to the recording, advised me to see a psychiatrist. But I knew that what I was going through couldn't be explained by medicine. He really existed. I was living in one of the most terrifying short horror stories a human could imagine. One night, I mustered up the courage to look into the bathroom mirror again after days of covering it. The crack from the last time was still there. When the light shone in, I saw myself, haggard, exhausted. I sighed in relief when I could no longer see his shadow. But then, a faint smile appeared on the reflection. I was not smiling. It was my reflection in the mirror that was smiling horribly. The smile was long, distorted, and then the reflection in the mirror slowly walked forward while I stood still. I felt like my mind was about to explode. In desperation, I smashed the mirror. Each piece fell to the floor, reflecting dozens of my distorted, smiling faces. And in each of those pieces, his shadow was still there, immortal, undispellable. I realized something terrible. He was not only following me in real life, he had crept into every reflection, clinging to my soul. I can break as many mirrors as I want, but he will always exist in the dark, in places I least expect. And then, in a moment of despair, I heard a whisper right in my ear. We will meet again, but next time you will not escape. Stay tuned for the next episode to see what happens when I decide to go back to the past to find out who he is.